Joining us now from Capitol Hill, Democratic Senator of Illinois, Assistant Majority Leader, Senator Dick Durbin. Senator, great to see you this morning.
It's good to be with you.
Let me begin with a tough question. Were you or were you not, sir, at Fenway Park 2 weeks ago?
It is true. Sweet Caroline, I was there to watch my lowly Cubs get battered by the Red Sox, but the White Sox came to town and evened it up for Chicago.
There you go. All right. So you got a split on the Chicago series with the Red Sox. I want to ask you about some of the clips we just saw there. The president out yesterday talking about the economy, urging patience, asking the American people to stay with him on what he calls the path to recovery. Just how patient are the people who vote for you, Senator Durbin, in the state of Illinois? They're getting pretty restless?
There are two things that drive elections, the economy and national security. I think we understand that, and the president understands it too. We're moving forward, but too slowly. I hope we can see a breakthrough soon, and one of the things that could lead to it is if we have some grown-up talk here in Washington about dealing with our deficit.
And, well, the implication of your statement there is that we're not having grown-up talk right now. What would you like to see done differently as you move forward as part of the gang of what is now 5?
Well, we started off gang of 6, and now I guess we're 5 guys since Tom Coburn walked away. But what we have here is a true bipartisan dialogue moving toward, I hope, a reasonable solution, putting everything on the table, dramatically cutting the deficit over a 10-year period of time, and doing it in an honest fashion. I hope we can move this idea beyond the concept phase in the next few weeks.
So let's get into specifics then, Senator. How would you like to see the deficit cut? What would you do to Medicare, for example?
Well, we go back to Bowles-Simpson, the deficit commission the president appointed, and what we're looking to do is to strengthen Medicare. We know that if it's left untouched in 5 or 6 years, it's going to run out of money. And so we have to think about things that will save us money in Medicare. I think there are things that are fairly obvious and fairly easy. For example, if we had real competition when it comes to the pharmaceuticals under the Medicare Part D program, that competition would dramatically bring down the cost of that program. Unfortunately, today we don't. There are other things we can do. The dual eligibles, one of the things addressed by the commission and others. These things will, I think, bring us better value for care under Medicare and a longer life for this program.
Senator, you mentioned 2 component parts of any electoral process, the economy and national security. They are oddly linked in terms of our economy. We're spending billions of dollars in Afghanistan, as you well know. Washington Post front page story today about the Senate Foreign Relations Committee report, kind of devastating to this particular policy that we're engaged in. Where are you in Afghanistan? Should we get out, like right now? Just get out?
I can tell you specifically where I am. It's time to bring the troops home. The president said we would start in the middle of this year, and we should, in a dramatic fashion, bringing the troops home. We cannot afford, it's unsustainable to continue to lose these lives in Afghanistan and to spend $10 to $12 billion a month in this country. We have to set finite goals, and we have to declare when we have reached them that we're coming home and leaving it to the Afghans.
Senator Durbin, Dennis Kucinich in the House put in a resolution which looked like it was going to win in the House, and Boehner put in another to co-opt it. But he got 150 votes almost, with 87 Republicans saying, get out of Libya in the next 15 days or we're cutting off funds. The resolution is now over, a similar resolution is now over in the Senate. Are you folks going to vote on that? And how would you vote on a resolution like that on how the president has handled the War Powers Act?
Well, I can tell you, Pat, you've probably read Dick Lugar's piece in the Washington Post, and I agree with it. I think he stated in clear terms the constitutional responsibility of Congress to declare war. And in this case, when we make a commitment of military forces, as in Libya, I have held every president, Democrat and Republican, accountable that Congress has to step forward and make that decision. I think that's the right thing to do. I'm joining with Senator Ben Cardin in a resolution to call for that vote.
Nicole Wallace.
Good morning, Senator. Do your constituents look at the economy as President Obama's economy? Do they hold him responsible for the fact that we're still not adding jobs or that we're growing too slowly? Or do your constituents see the economic struggles as a result of outside factors?
Well, there are outside factors, and there's no question about it, and it is going to be a lot tougher to come out of this recession. I think we can talk all we'd like about the failed policies of the previous administration, but the fact is we now have the president in position of power with his economic policies, and he's going to be held accountable. We know that. We think things are moving in the right direction, dramatically better than they were a year ago, and I might say to most of his critics, including one that was had a little clip on before I appeared here, listen closely to what their plan is. It sounds like the same old religion, the same thing we tried and failed with that led us into this recession.
You're talking about Tim Pawlenty's idea for tax cuts.
Tax cuts for the wealthy have been tried. If you remember, this is the 10th anniversary of President Bush's tax cuts. And in the first 3 years after those tax cuts were put in place, we saw two things happen: a dramatic increase in the deficit and a decline in the number of Americans going to work. I don't think we need to return to those two policies.
Tina Brown?
Well, Senator, we do keep hearing this great mantra of deficit, 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 and tax cut, tax cut, tax cut. What are your constituents? I can't believe that your constituents actually are talking about those things, that what they must be talking about is jobs, jobs, jobs. So what do you hear the most that they would like to see this country do?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head. When it comes right down to it, it is jobs that drives the political dialogue and conversation in Washington and in Chicago and Illinois. And what they're looking for are policies undertaken by this government that will increase the number of good-paying jobs right here at home. They want a tax code that's going to give working families a fighting chance so that as they work, they don't fall further behind. And they want their kids to have a better opportunity to go to school. When you take a look at the Republican budget cuts that we faced earlier this year, cutting back on aid to education, most families in Illinois would think is very short-sighted. Cutting back on medical research or research into new technologies and opportunities for business, very short-sighted. We've got to invest in America, in education, in research, in the basic infrastructure that'll help our economy grow.
Hey, Senator, give us a sense, when you go home to Illinois on weekends and travel around, the joint dilemma of, as you just alluded to, joblessness, chronic unemployment, 9%, in many places in your state higher than 9%, and the psychological burden of a country, and in your case the state of Illinois, being at war for 10 years. What's the weight that people are carrying?
Well, I think people are reaching a point of frustration, Mike, in terms of how long this has gone on, the recovery. I think that we sensed that over the weekend with the economic numbers that were reported, and the war in Afghanistan. I mean, Iraq, I have to give the president credit. The Iraqi war is coming down to the point where troops are coming home in a dramatic fashion, as they should. But when it comes to Afghanistan, I voted for this to get al-Qaeda after what they did to us on 9/11. I didn't dream I'd be here 10 years later still talking about a war that's costing us so much in human lives and $10 billion a month. We need to start bringing our troops home so the American people know we're focusing the resources not on building the infrastructure of Afghanistan, but building the economy of America.
Senator, have you made that case to the president? Because the numbers we hear about this summer are something like 3,000 troops, maybe 5,000 troops out of 100,000 coming home. It sounds like you'd like to see a lot more.
I'd like to see a lot more, and I've made the case to the president. I hope we can move in that direction and quickly. I believe that's where the American people are, too.
All right, let's hope you're right.
Senator, before you go, what do you figure will happen first? We'll get the last American out of Afghanistan, or the Cubs will win the National League pennant?
You know, I just knew you were going to do that to me. I knew that's how this was going to end. And all I got to tell you is I'm rooting for your Red Sox over the Yankees every day of the week. I live with Schumer, you know, so I've got to make my point.
God, he lives with Schumer. I always forget that.
Afghanistan's bad, but it's not Cubs bad. Let's be clear about that. All right, Senator Dick Durbin, thanks so much for spending time with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.